hit pause and ask the board to continue. That rarely happens, but if it seems like you're pretty close to the end, we'll probably just let it slide. With that in mind, I'd like to welcome Mr. Russ Moen, resident of Cherry Creek electoral area, health and quality of life, regarding on the topic of health and quality of life regarding unlicensed off-road vehicles using public roads. Thank you and welcome.
Good morning. My name is Russ Moen. I live on Desmond Road near the Log Train Trail gate. I've lived here most of my life. The trail's been there for non-motorized use for many years, but has never been enforced other than with signage. When I was a kid, there was very little traffic on the trail, more horses than anything. Even up to into the 1990s, there was very limited motorized use in that area. It was that era that Frank Steeny and the Friends of the Log Train Trail maintained the Log Train Trail. Numbers of non-licensed motorized vehicles have increased dramatically. A group of quadders and other non-licensed motorized use enthusiasts has successfully convinced this board to endorse motorized use of the trail. I want to make it clear, I'm not here to endorse motorized use or non-motorized use. I'm here to bring it.
That's me, I screwed it up.
You see? So I'm here to bring awareness to the chaos that you've helped bring into our neighborhood. The trail is divided by a half kilometer of single lane paved public Talon and Desmond roads. And presently there is no other way to get from the trail at the top of Horn Lake Road to the trail at the gate at the end of Desmond Road. Motorcycles and quads, side by sides, use these roads illegally daily. In addition, the many side-by-side vehicles that travel this cannot fit over the bridge at the end of Clayton Road. So they travel down Horn Lake Road onto Cherry Creek Road to get the other side of the trail, or they continue down Cherry Creek Road. Since the announcement to go motorized on the trail, we've seen a marked increase in the numbers of licensed, unlicensed motorized vehicles on our roads. There are some that drive the roads respectably, although illegally, and there are others that wheelie, do stunts, and ride at high speeds through our neighborhood. There are days when we get, seems to be a never-ending procession of these non-licensed vehicles going by, some with their spark arresters removed, which are very loud, some with their stereos blasted. Often we are woken up in the middle of the night, often with them blaring their loud stereos. It is commonplace for these non-motorized vehicles to travel down Cherry Creek Road as they use it to travel the Log Train Trail from their homes. We with licensed vehicles have had many close calls and these non-licensed vehicles on Talon and Desmond roads. Again, these are narrow single lane roads. It's only a matter of time before someone is hurt. My wife and I walk the trail daily and encounter motorcycles, quads, and side-by-sides in front of our house on Desmond. Most are respectful, but there are those that look at Desmond as a straight, narrow drag strip. We've had several wheelie within feet of us. Talon and Desmond roads have a dozen residences, with some with small children. These parents do not allow their children to even walk to the bus for fear of encountering someone doing something stupid. Can you imagine living here as a parent, having your children playing in your yard? You hear in the distance a loud motorcycle coming your way. You look up and you don't see your kids. Can you imagine the terror you would feel not knowing if your kids are safe? How would you feel if you lived in this area? I'm a car guy. I like motorized things. But there are days when the constant non-motorized traffic gets old really fast, even for me. This issue has adversely affected our quality of life. At a public meeting for the trail, I heard Director Fred Boyko say he wanted to see the Log Train Trail as a destination for motorized riders from outside the valley. This would only make things much worse. Even now, with the signage up for high fire hazard, no motor vehicles allowed, there are still those that ignore it daily. Residents have called the police on multiple occasions, but the perpetrators have long gone, and the police say that they do not have the manpower to monitor. I've heard some say that this board is encouraging this illegal behavior. This is huge liability for you. I have friends with non-licensed motor vehicles, some that ride respectfully, some that don't. Either way, this traffic has no place ripping through our neighborhood. Whether the trail is designated motorized or non-motorized, this is a problem. We need your help. What will you do about it? Hold on, you have some pictures?
Please go ahead.
I might add, this is the widest part of Desmond Road. It's about a 200 feet strip. What you can't see is where it goes narrow. Just that part of Desmond. I can get these guys, because they're going slow. That vast majority go way faster, and it's very difficult to get. They're much better at wheeling.
Okay, is there any commentary you wanted to add to those videos?
That'd be it. Thank you.
You can turn off your mic. All right, thank you. So we have Director Siga, then Director Boyko, then Director Kotsu.
Through the chair, I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation. I am not familiar with the area, and when we were presented with our options, there had been a meeting with a 90% vote in favor of motorized. Since then, it seems like the motorized are creating more problems than expected. The reasoning behind having motorized was in case of emergencies and to attract tourism, and that the motorized folk would be doing the maintenance on the trails, decreasing the ACRD costs. So I'm just wondering if you can respond to some of these positives that were presented to us in terms of the benefits of the motorized. Again, through the chair to the speaker. Thank you.
Are you aware of the commentary that happened during the decision?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead if you would like to.
So the motorized group that advocated to go motorized is a very focused, well-organized group. I don't believe they represent the vast majority of the community. That being said, you got your vote, but quite frankly, I'm really amazed that you didn't consult the neighborhood that is easily the most affected by this. Like I say, there is no way to get from one side of the trail to the other. If you had said, okay, we're going to endorse motorized vehicles from McLean's Mill out towards Beaver Creek, which is the vast majority of it, I don't think you get any pushback at all. Your fun doesn't matter how you do it. And this is what I'm saying, doesn't matter if it stays non-motorized or motorized, and I'm not speaking for either way. It is a problem having all this unlicensed vehicles go through our area, through a neighborhood. Quite frankly, it's madness. And it seems to be an epidemic now where commonplace, I hear them go by my place, and then I hear them continue down Cherry Creek Road. Are there positives? I'm sure the motorized group will tell you there are, and I'm not going to speak to that because, I'm going to say I'm not speaking either way. I'm just telling you how it's affecting our neighborhood.
Thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Boyko and then Dr. Cote.
First off, thanks for coming in and sharing your concerns. I think if we all had someone rip in front of their front yard, we'd all be in a similar place. Just want to make sure I'm speaking the mic. I'm looking at you, but I'm talking here. When we did this, it was a staff-led grant project to do the research on this, on what the log train trail will do. And it took a 1.5 years, and we had multiple engagements in person at various facilities, McLean Mill, we have it at Cherry Creek Hall, lots of surveys and that. There's lots of opportunity for public info. At that time, we had how many people? Over 1,000 people respond. And between Beaufort and Cherry Creek, it was over 12% of the population responded, and 80% of the people wanted to go motorized. That's where this comes from. I'm going to ask you a question though. The majority of the people in the area want it motorized, not specifically in that little cluster, because I'm going to show you on a map, because some of the other directors aren't familiar with the area. But what solution would you have to help solve the problem? I mean, putting up signs, speed limits. I'm not familiar with the sign that says high fire hazard, no vehicles. I haven't seen that sign yet, but what solution would you have?
So I don't know, I assumed it was you guys that actually put up signs. There's actually signed at the log train at the end of Desmond Road and the top of Horn Lake Road. Says for high fire hazard. As far as a solution, I have very specific ideas that I will not share at this public meeting. I'm sure you guys have your own ideas also. And to be quite frank, this issue has been going on for a long time. We've really seen a lot of higher traffic, even in the last, say, 5 years. We saw a marked increase when it was announced that it may go motorized. Like I say, whether it's the advent of just more people buying off-road vehicles and off-road motorcycles, it is what it is. But it's basically an unpoliced madhouse because anything goes. There are no rules. I'll give you a story. Last year, it was in the middle of the real dry season. We were out for a walk and ran into two friends. One was an old friend. They were on quads. We were just talking, and I casually I mentioned that, there's not supposed to go up there because of high fire hazard. Who's going to stop us? Was their answer. So it is a daunting task to police it or stop it, but there are ways.
Okay. I got a couple more things here to share. I'm just going to share my screen for a second, just so people can actually see the map of what we're talking about here.
I do see you, Dr. Roth. You can go on after Dr. Sparrow.
Can you actually see that? Oh, perfect. So this is the best map that I found out there to show why this is an area of concern. So log train trail goes from can't see my finger, but way up here on the top left to down here on the pole. Right? And you can see the little words log train trail here. What we're looking at is there's many trails to access on the northwest side and many trails to access on the southeast side. And it comes to a pinch point right at this point here. I wish I had a pointer, but right below where it says log train trail, this is Desmond Road, correct? Right. Perfect. So I'm going to show you two more maps here. This is ACRD map of the same area. I zoom in, and at that area, it has a log train trail going right through Desmond Road and through the three properties, the easement on Talon Road. Okay. You got a third map that has the trail on the ACRD website going right down Desmond Road and then pops down and onto the other roads on Talon Road and not going through the three properties of these. So it's a controversial way to figure out how to do this. And we have to figure out a way. So we have a regional parks working group. And the last question I'm going to ask is to staff is, how effective is this working group at solving this? This is the main problem in the log train trail. Okay. Well, before we do that, I'm going to show some pictures that I was sent that have been sent by the community of the repairs on the log train trail in the past year. All right. So this is after the bomb cyclone, what is it, November 10th or something like that last year? And then the cleanup. So these are fairly sizable trees that have fallen down here. Right? You can see the debris covering the trail totally. All right. The groups, I've not heard of the Friends of the Log Train Trail, but this was done by the ATV groups, this cleanup, and it was all done within a week of the bomb cyclone. You can see the size of the trees that were pulled down here. And people are proud of doing this work. They've been doing it for decades, and they're going to continue to do it. But you can see, like, this is almost a 2-foot diameter tree that they're cut that's getting cleaned up here. And finally, this is one of the bridges that was a bit washed out and then got repaired by the people. Multiple user groups came together to do this. So my question to staff is, we have this bottleneck at this one point, and it's affecting some people in the community. Now, the videos that we saw were mainly, I can say, were kids on the trail that were doing wheelies and stuff. And that's all over the valley. We have problems with that. That's a parental issue. But at the same time, if we're inconveniencing people, we need to figure out a solution. So what is the regional parks working group doing and where are they at? The directors aren't allowed to see any of the minutes, go to any meetings. So it's a black hole. We don't know what happens there. Thank you.
Oh, can you stop sharing? And Dr. Cote and then Dr. Sparrow.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd just like to thank you for coming and presenting, and I'm sure that all these people here are in support of you coming here today. I have a couple questions. Is there still a motorsports park in Cherry Creek, and is it near this location?
So the motorsport park is down by Chase's farm, so it is on the you want to say south side of the log train trail. It's on the Horn Lake Road side, so it's quite a ways away. It's down, you have to access it by going behind Cherry Creek School, the old Cherry Creek School.
So you wouldn't have to come along the log train trail if you wanted to get there. Go through this thing. Okay, thank you. That answers one. I'm very sympathetic to what you're having to deal with. I know at Sprout Lake, we have quads that ride on the roads and to get to the logging roads, which isn't really a problem to anybody except for fire. So a question now to staff. The suggestion is that from, I guess, McLean Mill of Beaver Creek, we could have motorized vehicles and then the other side, going through Cherry Creek area, can we do different designations so that one is motorized and one is not? Okay.
Is that a question that can be answered right now? Go ahead. Yeah, just use the mic. Right there, yeah.
So, hi there, Mike McGregor, Lands and Resources Coordinator. Just to go through a couple of the questions, starting with Director Boykos there. So I think specifically he mentioned the Regional Parks Working Group. So we did establish a Regional Parks Working Group last year. There's been 2 meetings, and the first one was just kind of an orientation meeting. So really, there's been 1 working meeting of the working group, and that was in July. No, sorry, end of June, I think it was. And we discussed, our discussions with the province. So just backing up a little bit to provide some context is, after the management plan was approved by the board, we reached out to the province to negotiate an updated lease. Our current lease has been in place since 1993 as a non-motorized only lease. That lease is still in place. It is currently a non-motorized trail. That lease hasn't been updated yet because we've been in negotiations. It's been a slow process, and our last meeting at the Cow here in June, we reviewed some of the comments from the province about what we would do for enforcement or a plan to enforce non-compliance for proposed motorized use, and we're going to talk about that at the board meeting this afternoon a little bit too. So that said, context is that it is still a non-motorized pathway. At the moment, we haven't been able to update the lease yet. We're still on the 1993 lease. And then to sort of answering Director Boyko's question about the Regional Parks Working Group, the minutes are posted on the ACRE website for the public to review and the directors as well. We would have dedicated time in the 2 meetings talking about the Log Train Trail and the conversations with the province, ways that we can incorporate the board's direction to update this lease and what the communications could look like once the lease is updated. But we have hit a stopping point with the province that I assume we'll talk about a little bit later today at the board meeting. So I do think that this is a good way to bring user groups together to discuss ideas to address concerns, and it provides a venue to bring these people together to discuss. So it is going to be on the Regional Parks Working Group agendas, I assume, for the next foreseeable future as we deal with this, and and I think it's something that will help bring these groups together to find solutions. And then moving on to Director Cote's question, so is there an opportunity for McLean Mill to have motorized to the north and then non-motorized to the south? I suppose that's not the board's direction currently. So if the board wants to adjust their direction, it could be looked at. I'd propose that it probably makes more sense to go the Cherry Creek Boulevard boundary and work within the electoral areas. But that's something we haven't looked at too closely. But the board can direct staff to look at that.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. That becomes Director Sparrow and then Director Ross, and then Director Heck.
Thank you. Yeah, I know the area quite well. I feel your pain because you actually have a paved road in front of your house. It's been paved, so it actually is a legal road. So you should not be driving non-motorized vehicles, non-licensed vehicles in front of your house, period. I know on the map it says it's part of the Log Train Trail, but I don't know if that's true or not. Made up if you have block or not right there. But this is the problem: is we have houses really close to Log Train Trail on Cherry Creek, and people are using the paved roadway to get to the trail. And to the point now, the lock blocks that were there, and now there's 4-wheel drives driving on Log Train Trail. And so when you come up to a 4-wheel drive, they can't get off the trail; they take the whole trail. So now you, as a user walker, have to get off in the bush so they can go by, and they should not at this time legally be there. So that's one of the problems. The problem is I guess people are pushing the boundaries, and they can continue to push the boundaries. So that's why I've asked the board to put the lock blocks back and repair the area that's been torn up by the quads and mainly 4-wheel drives from that one hill. Cherry Creek, 100 Lane. Up in that area is also an area, there's no place to actually park a vehicle and a trailer being brought on to get around, really one lane road. And there's the only place in Cherry Creek that's wide enough is the candy store, which is no longer part of the log train trail. Log train trail for our use starts behind Jason's Farm, 3 kilometers. So from that point on towards the candy store, we'll say. Yes, the Coombs Country Candy, all the way to behind the motocross pit and then down in the valley, then up the other side by the power lines, and we go in 3 kilometers. That's where Alicia starts. Which starts behind Chase's. So that, that's, yeah, sorry.
Okay, so I had 2 questions on what you're saying. First of which is the lock blocks are like used as bollard, or were you being used as bollards to kind of block access for larger vehicles?
Yes.
And then could you restate what you just said when my question was asked without the thing on, in regards to where it starts?
It starts at the 3 kilometer mark, which is up behind Chase's Farm, between the power lines and Chase's Farm, sign saying 3 kilometers. So anything south of that, west of that towards the candy store is Mosaic property. Okay. See, going through the creek, goes through the creek, that's to us.
Can I hit pause and ask, is Mosaic a part of the working group? No? Okay. Thank
So
you.
the area in question, from 3 kilometers, probably the 4.1 kilometers, your house, we're talking about a kilometer and a bit. That's really cost about 3. And if we could get people to stop using that area, it would solve our problem. There's no way you can undo a quad in that area and access. That's one of the problems. And the log blocks have been moved from Cape by your place and also the other candy lane and forward by.
So the larger vehicles would be a second issue.
Can I just interrupt?
Go ahead.
People are having a hard time hearing you, Director Sparrow. So if you could move your microphone actually closer to you.
It's always this microphone. All right. That was a problem before, was it? So yeah, so that's the problem is it's only about a kilometer a bit that's causing this issue. If we can get that sealed up, like you said, if Beaufort wants to do theirs and Cherry Creek wants to keep theirs blocking, that would be a solution too, I think. As long as we can find a way of blocking it off, so you guys have your piece of property. Would that be a solution?
There's no question, you kind of put it in perspective. The log train trail for your lease is how many kilometers? 18. So basically 19 kilometers is quite usable. There's a kilometer that's causing all kinds of trouble for everyone. That would make perfect sense. But I would caution you, or just give you the heads up. You're going to put something up. You're going to probably need cameras, because for at least initially, it's going to be I'm here for my neighborhood. We have neighbors that they wanted to write letters. They didn't want to sign their name because they're fearful of repercussions. I tried to kind of quell their fears, but their fears are real, and I know where it comes from. It's just we all live in the same area. And I've always advocated that we need to get along. It's just there's no way to police this, and that's why I concentrate on it's illegal to run on a public road. And if you look, Desmond Talon roads are Ministry of Transport roads. They clear the snow, they pave the roads. It's a real road. But we allow this to go on. You allow it to go on.
Thank you. So I'll put Director Boyko back on the list. That brings us to Director Roth and then Director Haggard.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Russ. I'm just wondering if we should let the lease go and have the province manage the trail, and then they deal with the issues. Because the problem actually, in order to resolve it, would cost local taxpayers too much. And we can't afford that type of enforcement, especially when you're talking about motorized, unlicensed motorized vehicles on roads and tying it to the trail. I mean, that becomes a whole different issue. I don't know, like I really want to support it and I want everyone to be able to use the trail, but I don't want it to cost us an arm and a leg. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Roth. Director Haggard and then Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Moen, for coming in today. It takes a lot of courage to come up here and stand before a group of people that you don't know. And also there's, as you mentioned, there's intimidation factor. Intimidation factor is real and people have experienced it. Sometimes the board makes decisions and we don't fully understand or anticipate how these decisions will affect our residents. And unfortunately, this decision to allow motorized vehicles on the log train trail has greatly affected your neighborhood and its quality of life. So I think the board has to work with all groups in order to come to a workable compromise. And I think that can be done. I would also like to point out, this is not the case of somebody buying a house on a golf course and getting upset because they find a golf ball in their yard. These are the residents that have lived here for 30 plus years. And I'd like to share a story. There is a couple who they were born in Cherry Creek. They were raised in Cherry Creek. They married. They raised their family in Cherry Creek. They recently had to leave because of an altercation, and they just could not take this anymore. And Dr. Boyko mentioned that it is kids that are doing the wheelies, probably, but I don't think it's kids that are driving on these roads at 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning, waking these residents up nightly. And it is happening nightly. So it affects your sleep, it affects your quality of life, it affects your health, it affects your mental health. So I think we have to really work towards some kind of compromise. And speaking on behalf of the city, we have noticed an incredible increase in motorized vehicles on the city part of the log train trail due to this decision.
Thank you. Director Boyko, before you go, if you can turn your volume on your device down to 0. Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I agree. No one wants to have big, loud, noisy vehicles right by their house at 2 in the morning. Okay. The concern here is quality of life for the people and this jurisdiction of the ACRD. We can't control what happens on the roads. We can't give tickets for people that take their quad onto the roads and how to get there and things like that. And what they do on city port, whatever happens, happens. It's the same thing as I went to the golf course recently and I found someone driving their golf course cart on the road. And my only thing is to call the cops and say, don't do that. I'm not going to call the golf course and say, hey, why are you letting your people drive on the road? That has nothing to do with the golf course and how they get there. So we have to be very respectful of the boundaries of what the ACRD can actually do and what our jurisdiction is. But there's a solution to this. And the solution is to figure out a way to make this one small section happy. You do have that road that cuts through the easement that would take all the traffic off to Talon and that other road there. And inconvenience less people, but it's still going to have ripping right in front of houses. So there is a way to solve this. And I don't know if it's a regional parks working group coming together. We're going to have another talk about that this afternoon, but there is a way to do this. And it might be give it back to the province and the ACRD walks away from this.
Thanks. I'm going to go and then we'll end off with you if that's okay. So first off, I think one thing everyone needs to realize, or I'm not sure if it was entirely apparent for everyone, that section of public road is on the maps an extension of the log train trail, which means that using quads and using those off-road vehicles is actually okay because they're getting from one part of the trail to the other, and that's by design. The problem is it's not an off-road vehicle trail right now, and it was by design for people riding horses or walking it, right? And that's the golf course conversation. So I think that's part of the conundrum here, is that we're looking to shift to off-road vehicles, and you're rightly bringing this problem up. So thank you for doing that. That's not the same thing as starting a fight. We're looking for solutions here. And so that's something that needs to be raised in order for us to consider all of the information when a decision has been made. Yes, if a road falls under government control, it's not always provincial control, it's also local government control. My understanding of off-road vehicle rules in BC is that local governments can designate certain roads for use for off-road vehicles, especially if they're like entrance or exit points for the trail to connect to the next park. Whether or not they do so depends on the decision-making of the board, so bringing it up here is the right idea. Same thing holds true for anybody who has any difficulties, concerns, questions that need to be answered, because we need that information. So no one should feel intimidated because we make the decisions on behalf of the entire community. We need to hear from the entire community. So no one should feel like they can't stand up and say something, because we're all equally responsible for the community assets. Just because someone volunteers their time to clear the trail doesn't necessarily mean they get more of a say. They have an equal say to somebody who never uses the trail. And that's by design as well. So I think that's just one thing we need to note. One thing that I'm going to agree on, though, is that there are solutions that we can look at. I think Director Boyko is right. All this information needs to be considered when decisions are made on whether or not the log train trail maybe has a motorized section and a non-motorized section or something. And that decision will go through a process that will likely be fraught with some anxiety, but that's usually a part of how things go when you have competing interests. But we need to know what those competing interests are. So thank you for being here. That's very important. And we just need to ensure that we make the decision in a way that is by the law, but also acceptable. So I'm going to let you have last word, but I'm going to ask Director Siga to go quickly. And then, yeah. I was going to have Director Siga go and finish. So,
Thank
Dr.
you very
Siga, go
much.
ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation and the reflections of the board. Yeah, I find it very disturbing that people are feeling that they have the right to interrupt the peace of a neighborhood. I find that very, very disturbing. And the fact that they think that nobody is going to stop them, as if they have no responsibility to their community, I find that very offensive. And in terms of solutions, I think like currently we do not have approval for motorized vehicles on that portion of the road. So would it be possible to post that currently there no motorized vehicles are except in cases of emergency are allowed on those trails? Thank you. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Director Siga. That's been already posted. The idea is that we may be changing that going through this process, but given the new information that we're having, that's going to be incorporated in the conversation. But as it is now, off-road vehicles aren't supposed to be used on the trail. That's how it is, right? But there are considerations around how trails are constructed from a legal perspective and like a design perspective that need to be considered. And I think those are things that the working group can do. Okay, thank you for being patient. Please go ahead.
Just to reply to Fred's comments, he is correct. There is a easement basically that I used to walk when I was a kid on that would basically makes it a straight road, Desmond a straight road, up until Desmond Road. And then from Desmond Road to the gate that starts the trail, there's absolutely no way you can get by there. It's a public road. There's multiple fishing bearing streams on either side, steep ravines. The water is all karst. And there's an easement for a double lane road, but the reason they didn't build a double lane road because it's not feasible. That being said, even if you got some sort of magical way to get through and you use that easement, would you do that to your neighbors? Have basically a racetrack in front of their houses? There's basically houses that are within 50 feet of that trail. To allow that to go by there just on a morally is wrong. And going back to where we are right now, that it's been non-motorized forever, and it just gets worse and worse. So that's why we're looking to you to help us out. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That'll be it for the conversation. Pay attention to our discussion during the board meeting starting at 1:30. I don't know when we'll discuss it, so but we do record them and put them on YouTube as well. This isn't something that'll be completely 100% decided by the end of today, I don't think. And we'll just have to make sure that as the working group minutes are posted, we post them quicker. I went checked and they're not up as far as I can go. So we'll make sure that that's part of it. And yeah, stay tuned, stay engaged. I think that's the most important thing that all our citizens can do and residents is to stay engaged and in contact, not just with staff, but your elected representatives as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. That was really good. And thank you for those maps. It really helped. So that brings us to correspondence, of which there are none. Requests for decisions, there aren't any. However, we do have a report from Heather Zenner. I'm wondering if we want to take maybe a 5-minute break. I have to use the washroom, and it'll let the room cool down a bit, and then we'll come back. Thanks. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So now we have a presentation and report from Heather Zenner in regards to the development of the procedures bylaw amendments or just the rewrite. So thank you and welcome, Heather. Please go.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so today is meeting number 4 of reviewing the ACRD procedures bylaw. I'm going to walk you through a presentation. You've also received a staff report in your agenda package, which includes details of what we're speaking about today, but it also provides a record of some of the items that the committee has made decisions on in the past 3 meetings. So I'm hoping that we'll finish the review today. And if the committee is ready to move forward, the board this afternoon can pass a resolution to direct staff on the next steps of developing the bylaw. So one of the items that we discussed at an electoral area committee meeting in June was taking some bigger planning applications away from the board meeting and having more of a in-depth discussion at electoral area committees. So that would allow the 6 electoral area directors to have a bigger opportunity to discuss bigger planning applications. So the committee met in June and they discussed the criteria, and the criteria on the screen is what they have recommended. So rezoning and OCP amendment applications that are centered around comprehensive development uses, as well as residential zoning applications where they would be changing from residential or rural use to commercial, industrial, or institutional, as well as rezoning applications where OCP amendments bylaws are required and where more than 3 new lots would be created. So these are your bigger, more in-depth development applications. And again, it would just be an opportunity for the EA directors to have a more wholesome conversation. Number 4 also states that any individual development application that is referred to the committee by the board of directors at the request of an EA director. So it could be a smaller application, but it could maybe be contentious. So the EA directors still have, or the board still has the opportunity to send an application to the EA committee for further discussion. So I'll stop there. Yeah.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
I was gonna ask for one more if I could, to the record. If we get under sections of 499 of the Government Act, we send out notices, if we get more than 10% back, that negative variety. Should that be sent back to the EA directors? Because obviously there's people in the area have no say and they want more discussion. Are we going to go give it to the big board and then just have it there? I mean, that point in time, the residents said they don't like it. Maybe the applicant wants to revise the application or do more in-depth discussion. Thinking if that should be brought up as one of the things when it goes back to the EA directors, or should we just keep it the way it is?
Maybe Heather, then Daniel, then Fred.
There's no magic number in terms of feedback that comes back. So it's not like there's a 10% or 50% threshold. It is a discretionary call. So at the end of the day, if the board feels that it should be sent back in either direction, they have that ability, and that's the way we've drafted this. We have some automatics, and so the automatics will go to the committee first under this revised bylaw. But even as it goes through, if it ends up back at the board and you feel that it is really contentious and is deserving of another deeper dive, just send it back and we go. But it's not like an alternative approval process where there's a 10% threshold. When it comes to applications such as this, it could be that everyone hates the idea, but the board loves it and it can still go through. That's your call.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna echo something similar. Some properties have 1 neighbor, and having 10% of 1 neighbor is gonna be impossible, and some properties have 100 neighbors. So having a threshold is gonna be unenforceable.
Thank you. Please continue.
Okay. We're just anticipating that there would be probably 3 to 4 applications per year that would fall into these categories. They could add additional application time to the entire process, and it will require additional staff time and EA director time. So if there's no further comments from the committee, I will move on, just knowing that the committee is happy with this criteria that's outlaid. Okay, the next item was at the last Cal meeting, the committee asked for additional information on the electronic voting and an agenda management software. So I've provided additional detail in the staff report, and I'll run through some of the highlights of the benefits and the cons. So the benefits of moving to a software is that electronic voting is available to the directors. This software also provides agenda management software, which would reduce staff administrative time preparing reports, reviewing agenda packages. We do approximately 145 meetings per year. So having software that would help prepare the agendas would significantly reduce staff time. Currently, we use a very manual process. This software would likely reduce any errors, as well as remove any version control issues that we struggle with. This software has reporting capabilities. I showed some of them last meeting in terms of voting. You can see how directors vote. You can see how many motions are passed per year. It also has the improved ability for the public to navigate and see agenda items and connect them to the video recording. So you're not having to fast forward through a whole YouTube video to find the agenda item that you're interested in watching. You can just click on the agenda and it'll take you to the exact spot in the video. The software also has the ability to control and enable access to in-camera agendas for directors. In the past, we've had some privacy breaches related to in-camera's agenda being shared publicly. So there's that advantage. The cons are that all board members, including alternates, must have a piece of technology to vote. So you can use a laptop, tablet, or phone. So we would just have to ensure that all of our alternate directors, when they attend, we provide them with, a computer or a tablet so they can vote. Cost is $14,900 per year. There's an additional $5,000 fee to get the program set up. So I'll stop there and ask for feedback from the committee.
Dr. Blicko?
I think this is a great idea. When you go back and look at the video recordings for when you want to pick out certain items to review, I often spend up to 6 hours doing research on this particular item to find out exactly when it happened, where it happened. And I actually did this last night for a topic this afternoon. So connecting to video recordings is quite useful. Recording votes, the voting people want to know how their particular director voted to make sure they're doing their job and what they were elected for. If it costs $14,900 per year, you take my salary and that's about exactly the same number and I'll pay. Thank you.
Dr. Ross, go ahead.
Thank you. I think this could really streamline things. 145 meetings a year is a lot. Saves time, reduces errors, improves public access. Cost and tech needs are worth weighing in, but the long-term gain makes it worth it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments? Dr. Haggard, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason I'm supporting this, because anything that we can do to help streamline things and decrease staff time, work, and increase efficiency, I think is a good thing.
Dr. Siga, please go ahead.
I just want to clarify, this would be available for committee meetings as well, would it?
We wouldn't use electronic voting for committee meetings, as we have a lot of volunteers on our committees and we wouldn't be able to be in a position to provide them electronic voting. However, the agenda management software would be obviously used for the preparation of agenda packages for all committees.
Dr. Cote?
Thank you. How would that work for directors in the boardroom? Or would it be just a specific thing on your laptop or whatever? So, or do you have to follow along? Because really, we don't have to. I have my agenda on line and I don't have to link in because it's recorded. So would we have a special, and my alternate doesn't, have a laptop or whatever.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
brings.
So the voting option would be available on your computer through the software. So we'd have to set you up with the software on your computer. For your alternate, we'd have to provide Renee a computer or a tablet each time he comes in. So we do have some spare laptops. I think.
But only during the meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we wouldn't be issuing one, like each of our directors is provided a laptop or a tablet at the beginning of their term. But yeah, if your alternate was coming and we'd just make arrangements to provide him a tablet or computer.
Go ahead.
Follow up. So will it'll still be recorded like during the on screen. So I'm just cautious of what's happening behind the scene.
Yeah, I'll just go back to what I showed in the meeting last time. So this is a dashboard of City of Nanaimo's votes and how each member voted.
Would we see that on our, like, would we be able to see that live time?
You would be able to, sorry, you'd be able to see what I've just shown on my screen right now. So yep, this is on the city's website. This is like something that you would go. This is like a reporting tool. Yeah, like this is a reporting tool that you would look at after. Yeah, this is what you would see as you're making a vote. So this would come up on screen. Everybody would make their votes. And then this is what would show after the vote is complete.
So that is what would come up on screen during the vote so that people could watch it. But that's not necessarily what everyone is looking for, though. They're looking for let me go back to the previous slide.
Yeah.
They're looking for one more. They're looking for that after the meeting, and they're looking at for it aggregated. So if you can see on the right side at the top, you can check each of the different meetings, and then it'll show all of the motions for those meetings, just so that you can track maybe like a planning decision through time or something like that. So it's just showing the voting record of a member in a way that is way easier to put together rather than having to watch a bunch of videos. And it happens automatically. So I've actually watched a City of Nanaimo meeting before, and it's fairly painless because you can have your laptop with your document in front of you. And then when a vote comes up, a pop-up comes up, and then you just vote because you're logged in as yourself. The other thing is, if you don't like that, you can just have it on your phone and then have the material in your tablet. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it.
So my one concern is that this is very end. Like this is what the vote was. It doesn't give you any explanation. What comes to mind is that when we come to a meeting, my alternate, I don't tell him go and vote this way, because we will discuss an issue and an agenda and say, you know, like this is what's happening. It's up to him to make the decision. But that information isn't really relayed in I voted this way. So people don't understand why you voted in a certain way. So I'm just I see some good things with this, but I just I would rather people actually watch the meeting and heard what the discussion was to why decisions were made. But thanks.
Thanks. I think those are good points. I think part of what we're going to need to do is normalize people explaining why they're voting a certain way. Although that does happen sometimes. You know, we'll go around the table and almost everyone will speak and say, I support this motion for X reason, right? And some people vote yes reluctantly as well. So the onus is on the director or the member, the participant of the proceeding in order to explain their votes both during and after the votes as well. So that's something that will need to be normalized in the practices of each director. After the meeting, this is how it went. Oh, by the way, here's the voting record, and here's why I voted the way I did, and so on and so forth. And you can see a lot of different counselors, especially counselors that as Nanaimo, Ladysmith, they all do fairly well in how they do their communications online about those things. but it's easy because they can just screenshot or have a printout that's turned into an image of the vote, right? And then that's something they can post and then have text beside it to explain. Not everyone is going to read that, obviously, but it's a heck of a lot better than requiring people to watch 6 hours for 35 minutes of content spread across 2 different conversations. So it's just one of those things. Is my question is, can topics be hashtagged so that they can be flagged for, 34 minutes and 50 seconds and 52 minutes and 48 seconds because they're related, right? One was a presentation, the other was the actual decision. Can we link those? Is that easy enough to do, right? And then at least they can be highlighted so somebody can skip to it. Because the only other thing I'm thinking on is when we do motions, we make sure we refer to those motions by whatever the code is in the file, like motion, 0723007, right? Or something like that, because that's what today is. And so on and so forth. Like, it's about to make the information more widely available. Still means that there's work to be done, right? And so I think that's part. But I think it's good. Director Sparrow?
Thank you. So this capability is when we vote, it'll automatically calculate for us to tell if it's passed or failed or abstentions are already involved. One of the things is my computer sometimes decides to have a vacation in the middle of a meeting, and you probably noticed the last 3 or 4 times it's done that. That could be a bit of a problem. We have to manually then go for a hand up and then somehow add the software later on. It does happen with this computer.
So
Same with my microphone. Yeah.
the person running the meeting has the ability to input specific votes. So if your computer ended, you can just put up your hand and then I could input your vote.
Yeah, and there's a chance we just hold for 15 seconds, you log in via your phone instead of your laptop. There should be an app that you'd be able to download, and usually apps are more reliable, but it is a thing. So there are some instances where you can have, I voted this way, but my computer's dying. Can somebody, either the corporate officer or whatever, do it for me? And then it should be fairly readily available. Yeah. The big thing is just making sure that there's a process by which I'm leaning over the corporate officer's shoulder to make sure she's voting for you properly. Because that's always that can be a thing where people are concerned, right? Whenever electronic voting is a thing. So we got to make sure all of you have good passwords rather than crappy ones, and so on and so forth. Go ahead.
And one more thing, if this all does come to pass, when will it be initiated to start?
I would target the beginning of the year, right? Like budgetary.
So the time frame to implement something like this is about 6 months. So it includes procuring the software, building templates, training staff, and rolling out the interface and training you all on how to use it. So that's going to take 6 months. So we do not have this budgeted in the 2025 budget. So yeah, that's the time frame.
So yeah, if we aim for the new fiscal, or not, sorry, the new year, because it's a different fiscal. Did anyone have any other comments? 15K seems pretty reasonable, given the amount of time it'll save our staff as well. Because we can just add late items to its section and we don't have to make sure everybody gets them, so on and so forth. It'll save us probably 30 minutes, which is significant. Any further comments? Okay, please continue.
So the decision on moving forward with the software does not certainly need to be decided on today, but the reason that we got into this discussion was about recorded votes. And we really haven't made any decisions on recorded votes. So currently the bylaw states that a director can ask for a recorded vote ahead of the vote being taken. So if you'd like to change that at this point, I'll need direction.
I think what we should do, and I don't know if we've discussed it yet, but having agenda items where it's I can't remember what they're called, where you do a whole block of kind of just consent agenda items. If we do that, then having everything be a recorded vote should be okay. Because then, you know, things like the minutes and the correspondence for information, other things that are like staff reports, those can all be put into one decision to accept them all. And what you do is you have a discussion before you get to that and go, does anyone want to pull anything out? Right? And for an individual vote, which is different than talking about it. So I think there are ways that we can use it and have a recorded vote for everything, but we don't have to have a recorded vote for each individual piece of minutes, as long as we have a consent agenda as part of the agenda. So if it's about saving time and being efficient, I think this is the way to do it. Because were I in a position where it was to my values to ask for a recorded vote every time, I would just ask for a recorded. And so if any one director can do that, then we might as well just assume that that's going to be the case. And then we have exceptions for when we don't have to have a recorded vote for each individual item through just having a consent agenda decision. We're one of the only jurisdictions like that doesn't use them. So having this updated version is a good idea. Danielle, please go ahead.
Just wanted to add that if we're going down the route of the software which records the votes, we might want to change the wording in the bylaw to say that where the software, if and where the software is not used for whatever reason, crash or whatever, that we default back to the request for recorded votes on specific agenda items, just so that we don't have assumptions that staff are going to be feverishly collecting everyone's votes. So I think it's that distinction will be important, that we're assuming software will collect it. If that does not function, then it's up to the board to request on a case by or vote by vote or issue by issue a recorded vote.
Analog clause. Okay. Dr. Boyko?
No, I think that's great. Have a default backup that we go back to how things are done now. Same thing as our default is to record every meeting or as opposed to if it's offsite, then we'll just forget about it. So have that as a default thing.
Let's make sure we mention that during this discussion too. Like if it's not already a clause, it probably should be. Like just record meetings.
It is included. In
Okay,
this.
yeah.
So it would be my preference that the committee makes a resolution with a recommendation to the board to proceed with this software for the 2025 or 2026 budget.
Director Boyko, seconded by Director Sparrow. Any further comments? All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. It was not asked to be recorded before the vote, so therefore. Okay, please continue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at the March 12th Cal meeting, the committee directed staff to bring back options for evening board meetings. So I've laid out 3 options for this committee to consider. Option 1 being the first board meeting of the month during the day. The second board meeting of the month is during the evening. Options 2 is all board meetings in the evenings. And option 3 is status quo. I'm just going to go to the next slide and then open it up to discussion after that. So things to consider is if we're starting board meetings during dinner time, is there an expectation for bringing meals in? We should also consider the timing of in-camera meetings. So the discussion of moving towards evening meetings was related to having more public engagement, as well as allowing for folks, potential future directors that work during the day, having the ability for evening meetings to encourage additional participation. So the timing of in-camera meetings excludes public. So those meetings could be held before the regional board meeting or as after. Just consider that you'd have to have a specific time for an in-camera meeting, and should that meeting not be completed by the time the board meeting is scheduled to start, the meeting would have to be recessed and then restarted after the regular board meeting. there could be a gap in between the in-camera and the regular board meeting. I think those are all things that can be worked through. It's just a consideration. And then as well, child minding, does the committee want to consider providing child minding on site? And so I will stop there.
Thank you, Director Cote, and then Director Boyko. Director, okay, I'm gonna write it down. Director Cote, please go ahead.
Thank you. So because I've been on this board for so long, we've discussed this many times. And we used to have evening meetings that started at 6. There was never anybody in the audience. Everybody was at home having dinner. The West Coast directors were not really wanting to come here. When they did come, they'd spend the night because it was late. They didn't want to be driving on the highway, especially in the winter. So I'm not in favor of evening meetings. Committee meetings, absolutely. But as far as the board goes, I like the daytime. It makes perfectly good sense. I understand that people, some directors work in the daytime. I do too, but you just work around it. This is when you are elected, it's a commitment. You need to understand that it is a commitment, whether it's daytime or nighttime. And as far as meals, it was always difficult in the evening for people to go from work and then get here for 6 o'clock. In-camera meetings happened after the board meeting, similar to what it is in the daytime, which didn't work either. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Cote. Before we go to the next person, I'm wondering if everybody can make sure that their microphones have their wires plugged in. Just make sure that the connection is strong. I think it's a Paravo connection, so everyone's connections need to be in place.
Can you hear that?
It seems louder now, so it might have been yours, so thank you. Hopefully that's better, Director McEwen. All right, thanks. Okay, next up we have. Yep. Okay, next up is Director Boyko.
Thank you, Chair. I'm one of the few that actually has a job and works during the day. But when you just look around the age of the board members here, there's a lot of retired people here. And we want to have a diverse opinion from the entire population, and having these meetings during the day is a deterrent to many people actually applying to be a board director. And that needs to change. Okay. We don't need to pay to have people meals bringing in. If you look at our expenses by directors, there's over 55,000 right now. It's high enough as is taxpayer money. Child minding, most people have that already taken care of. We need to have the ability to have more directors here in the future, get a more diverse set of people showing up here. I would be willing to do half the meetings in the evening as a start and see how it is as a test. Do that for a year or two, test it out, and then move forward. But me personally, I am for evening meetings. I'm not always available to come in like I am today and be here in person. Sometimes I'm not even in this province or country when I'm doing meetings. Having meetings in the evenings is great for increasing engagement. Director Cote mentioned that nobody actually comes to the meetings anyways. When you look at the YouTube videos of our current meetings a day or two later, we have hundreds of views. People are interested in what we're doing. They're engaged. They want to know what we're doing in here because we affect their lives more than the provincial and federal levels of government. Give them the choice to show up and watch things live. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Boyko. Next up is Dr. Sparrow, then Haggard.
Thank you. I was looking at this about evening meetings and that and diversity. And then I went back and I thought when the time about Cherry Creek and the water board out there, for about 55 years, their meetings were the second Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. period. And in the 12.5 years that I was there, we had 3 people show up. And they were mainly to complain about their water bills because they had overages. So I know you say you want to get more people involved, but they didn't. And they were there 55 years doing that. And now they've moved from 7 p.m. on a Wednesday to 9:30 a.m. on a Wednesday to help with staff time, because the staff time was in the evening And then they had to compensate them for the daytime, they're nighttime, so they're basically. If you did these meetings here, you'd be having, mainly the staff would be half afternoon shift and or overtime or days off, so. In theory, it sounds good, but in practicality, which we do at Cherry Creek, it actually didn't work at all, so. And seeing how Cherry Creek loved their water board and their improvement district, then I will stay with daytime meetings and maybe put child bonding in if people want to. People want to join, that's fine, but we have to do something like that, but. The evening meetings just didn't bring anybody else out, unfortunately.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sparrow. Next up is Dr. Haggard and then Dr. Roth. After that, we have Dr. Steer and Dr. McEwen, and then we'll go to Director Siga after that. Dr. Haggard, please go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Chair. I will not be supporting evening meetings for a number of reasons. It's very long days for staff and they need a work-life balance as well. It's also a very long day for directors. We're responsible for making big decisions. You cannot make good decisions at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And I'm speaking from experience because when I was first elected in 2018, council held their meetings in the evening. And at 10 o'clock at night, you're going, I just want to get this over with. I just want to go home. Everyone felt that way. There was no one in the audience. Staff is tired. We're tired. You cannot make good decisions and you cannot have good, wholesome conversations. There is no agenda item on our agenda for public input at board meetings. So if you're sitting here in person or sitting at home watching YouTube, there's no difference because you don't have an opportunity for public input. If the resident does have a question, it can be sent in online. And I've had many people tell me they watch the meetings, they have the meetings turned in online on YouTube. And if it's something you're interested in, they'll turn it up. But most of the things don't affect their daily lives. We have 14 directors, 7 live in town, 7 live out of town. And as Director Cote pointed out, the reason meetings were changed from the evening to the afternoons was because of the cost, because people had to spend the night. You cannot drive home at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, especially in the winter. And everyone is trying to watch pennies in their budget now, so it would just be too costly. So this gives every director the opportunity to come to a meeting. However, there might be an opportunity that, especially during budget time, that we can have a special board meeting in the evening and allow for public input during that time, because that would allow anyone to come and attend. And just to support this, when council changed from evening meetings to daytime meetings, we get more people attending those meetings in the day during the evening. Thank you.
Okay, so an evening meeting during the budget process? Yeah.
Allow for public input. I know we go to like Cherokee Hall and Sprout Lake Hall in different areas, but having actually a budget meeting in the evening would allow for public input. And that's what we're trying to do, is engage the public. Most of these things don't concern most of our residents that are in our board meetings. It will only relevant to very few, or if any. So I think we have to be cognizant of that, of the director's time and money and staff time.
Okay, I had thought that we did an evening meeting during the budget process, but maybe that's a public hearing, which is different. Yeah, okay. Next up, I have Director Roth and Director Steer.
Thank you. Daytime meetings are tough for me. I work full-time and I have no coverage whenever I'm in a meeting. My work just piles up. Evening meetings would be much more manageable for me. I prefer option 2, where all meetings are in the evening, but I'd be okay with option 1, where there was one in the day and one in the evening. Zoom has changed everything for directors that work out of town or, live out of town, because they don't have to come in and stay overnight. They can Zoom into the meetings. As far as in camera goes, I would recommend scheduling after the regular meeting so public and staff can go. Thanks.
Thank you. I have Director Steer and Director McEwen.
Hi, thank you, through the chair. I will be supporting, and I think option 1 is a good compromise. And I think both Director Boyko and Director Roth articulated some of the issues. And I think one of the more, for me, certainly to encourage that diversity of council and public participation. We have clear data that's presented to us that public participation in those, and we keep saying evening, but we switched ours to 4:30, and we have data to support that we have an increase in public participation at those meetings. Certainly in terms of the diversity of those that will be applying, and as Director Boyko pointed out, there is a certain demographic that has the ability to participate in local government. I would like to see that diversity increase. And when I speak locally to folks that I would like to encourage to be involved in local government, their main complaint is that they work full-time and that their ability to participate would be compromised by having those daytime meetings. So it is important to consider the greater conversation here, I believe, as well. And as was pointed out, technology has allowed those of us from the West Coast in terms of the wintertime areas to be able to zoom in when travel would be not conducive. The other last piece is that I think if we look at a time at around 4:30 when most people's workday would be finished, and we're not going to be getting into those late night Director Haggard's point around the 11. She's absolutely right. Good decisions are not made at that late hour, but starting at 4:30, and our average ACRD meeting tends to be roughly around 3 hours. So that would put us at 7:30. I think that's a comfortable time for everyone. So I would support option number one. Let's try a mixed. Let's have a daytime and an evening, and that will give us some comprehensive data to see if, in fact, that would be something that could be supported by the public as well as the board itself.
Thank you. Next up, I have Dr. McEwen, and then I wrote down Siga and then Johnson, but it's different on the screen now. But Dr. McEwen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Also speaking from experience in my first term on council back in 2014, our meetings started at 7:30. And so by the time we had in camera, I was often getting home at 11 o'clock at night. And Director Haggard is right. It's really hard to make good decisions when you're tired and you just want to get home. And we had one regular person in the audience back in those days. Now that was prior to Zoom, which has changed things, and YouTube. Now that we meet at 4, I get home 7:30 usually, and we do have a lot of people watching both live on Zoom as well as YouTube later on in their pajamas. So I'm in favor of sticking to daytime meetings. I'm open to moving it to a 4 o'clock start, like our council meeting is, if you think that might attract some other directors to put their names forward for to be elected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have Dr. Siga and then Dr. Johnson.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have a real interest in having people with young families involved in these decisions because it's going to be impacting them into the future the most. But the reality of the job is that you are taking time out of your personal life, whether it's during the daytime or the evening time. And in terms of young families, it's when they get home from school, that's their personal time, the evenings and the weekends. So I'm not in support of evening weekends, just because of the demographic that I like to see getting involved in these decisions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Johnson, go ahead.
Yeah, Tokwat Council has moved all over the place over the past 15 years. I'm in support of, I would say, option 1. I have a job. Luckily, I have a job that allows me to take the time off, but I have to then make up the time on, like, make longer work days and stuff like that to make up the time that I take off for this position. I'm in support of like a 4 o'clock start time. But if we do one day and one evening to start, I'd be definitely in support of that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Dr. Boyko, go ahead.
Just a quick one. If we're worried about staff time, we got 3 staff in the meeting right now. They're all non-exempt, right?
Well, we're all exempt.
Exempt, right? So no overtime is how it works. So if you're working evenings, you can switch around for time in lieu and modify your schedule. And I assume that would be potentially attractive to a lot of staff to take time off whatever.
We manage our schedules, so we would have to manage to make sure that we're putting in the time. There is no overtime going in down that path. I won't speak on behalf of all staff and saying what's an advantage or not. I think if the board wanted to know exactly what staff thought, we could do a quick survey with those staff that do attend to see how it impacts their lives. Might be much more clear, and I think a really quick survey to do. I don't want to speak on behalf of individuals that I just don't know their life situation.
Thank you. Did you have multiple? No? Okay. Dr. Cote and then Dr. McEwen.
Thank you. Great conversation here. Once again, this issue comes forward. I definitely support daytime. So I'm wondering how would other meetings meld into having an evening or late afternoon meeting. Say we start at 4. People need to have nourishment, dinner time. They're also, how would we integrate committee of the whole or other committees that we need to do that we do in the daytime? EA directors, AV and Banfield, those would be in the daytime then, or would we try to tag those on at the end of a evening meeting? I think that the way that it's positioned right now works very well, so that we can incorporate all of those other meetings that we need to with the board meeting that starts at 1:30. I absolutely think that this is the right time. I really don't believe that we will have more people showing up. We never did in the evening. People had lives they didn't want to. With the new Zoom and YouTube, people can watch it at any time. They're very happy with that from what I'm hearing. There's a lot of people that do watch it and they don't want to take time off from their lives to come and sit in the room and wait through a whole meeting. They're more specific on what their issues are that they want to hear. So I'm not in support of doing anything. I want to stay what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cote. That brings us to Dr. McEwen.
Thank you. Just one other point I forgot to mention back in that first term on council, when our meeting started at 7:30, there were no staff in the room for our council meetings, so that they would not have to be paid overtime, which made it really awkward when any of us had a question about some of the reports in the package. There was nobody to ask. So overtime for staff is definitely something to think about for evening meetings.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Yeah. Oh, Dr. Kurtz, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a difficult subject matter, that's for sure. As we know, we are always working to try and have all of our meetings be as inclusive and transparent and accessible as we can. So I have a difficult time wanting to vote for, now if I, pardon me with the numbers, I believe if I recall, option 1 is a mix of both. Option 2, I think, is is just evening, and option 3 is none of the above. I have a difficult time wanting to vote for option 2, and I understand that it's probably a little bit more of a biased situation, but Chucklisset understands that this is a big responsibility and it takes dedication. You have to make sacrifices sometime for the benefit of the peoples. So in doing that, we've made this position and our seat a part of the job. This is my job for the day. This is my full-time position when I'm here. Otherwise, I have my other position full-time as the executive of Lands and Resources. That is why I am here. I never want to support the board preventing the public from participating, because that just defeats the entire purpose of us being here for the people. However, as has already been commented, those evening times and those family times are times that we as our nation go out with our people. Those are the times that I can go out as a family member and I can go and see my aunts and my grandmothers and my cousins. Those are the times that I can go out and harvest for them. That's my responsibility. So it's difficult. I want everybody to have the opportunity to be here in a time that works for them. So I would be very curious to see if it would be perhaps an option to try evening meetings bi-monthly, just to kind of see how it feels out, see if there's more participation that way. But I can't confidently vote for option 2 and then I would then be forcing whomever is in this seat later to lock into that. And I can't confidently do that currently.
Thank you, Dr. Coots. All right. Further discussion. Dr. Cote, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we stay option 3, status quo, daytime meeting.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Dr. Haggard. Any comments? Dr. Boyko.
Can we make this a recorded vote, please?
Yeah. Dr. Steer, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll refrain from comment at this point. Sorry.
Any further comments? Okay, I've appreciated the conversation around this. I'm wondering how it interacts with our more recent decision to go with a more accessible format for after meeting recording as well. So that's something we'll need to consider. There was a comment around having more people engaged or wanting to run as directors. I think that comes down to more area directors need to be paid more as well, but that's neither here nor there. But when it comes to real participation, I think it comes down to, do I have a job or do I do this? And in some instances with municipalities or First Nations, you can do both, right? It's a part of the job, but for area directors, it's hard. No, but you don't have a job that is compatible with this. You have to pick either or, right? Well, I don't know what your job is. Yeah. Director Boyko, go ahead.
If you worked a standard banking hour 9 to 5 job, you cannot be a director or counselor with the current time format. Period. If you have alternative arrangements, which is coming out, and some people do, or work night shift or evenings or have their own business or whatever, different situation. But a lot of people are excluded from this because of their time. I'll stop there.
Yeah, because of the pay as well, because it's the same thing. Director Cote?
Thank you. Through 21 years, there's been a lot of people who I know that have run for council or for directors. And I tell you that they have worked in the hospital, they've worked banking, 9 to 5 hours, whatever jobs, and they have done the job. So I don't, with families and whatever. So I have a different opinion there. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Beckett.
Thank you. Everyone has shared their perspective pretty much. I feel that it's important that my colleagues feel my perspective or understand my perspective. I don't believe I can support option 3. Perhaps if it was for the remainder of our term and start afresh with a new board, perhaps. But more importantly, and I feel more strongly about attracting a diverse board, and I don't know if that data is out there, but I would think that we are more likely to, as Director Steer has brought up in his comments, we're probably more likely to provide a bit more diversity. If our meetings were late afternoon, 4:30, or in the evening. So thank you for allowing me to share my perspective and for you to understand that I will not be supporting option 3 unless it is for the remainder of the term. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Dr. Haggard and then Director Cote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually a little offended by some of the ageist comments that our people are talking about today. I may be older in years, but I'm very young at heart, and I do have a lot of friends and family that are younger, and I share a lot of their perspectives when I come to these meetings. So I don't think we should be talking about age. I think that is not appropriate right now. And on a personal basis, when I had children, that is the last thing I wanted to do was go to a meeting in the evening. I had to go to a meeting and I was working that day. It would be easier for me to go during the day when they're at school, instead of trying to get a sitter and do 101 other things you have to do with children in the evenings before I went to a nighttime meeting for 3 or 4 hours. And before I retired, again, it's very difficult to go to evening meetings because again, you've got 101 things you have to do after you've worked a full day. So that is why I won't support evening meetings.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Cote and then Dr. Ross.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we should table this and get more information as to what other regional districts do as far, because there's different models that are happening all over the place. So I'm wondering if we should do that.
Okay, let's have the full discussion. First, Dr. Ross, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd be in favor of tabling it, but also, like for example, today, I'm going to be missing 7 hours from work. So I'm going to be working in the evening to make up for it, or on the weekend to make up for it. So it's not like you just leave work and that's the end of it. There's a price you pay there too. I like the idea of the 4:30 meeting start. And I think that was Director Steer that brought that up. I really like that. But I have no problem at all tabling it too. Thank you.
Thank you. If we table the discussion, I think what we should do is have a follow-up request for going into more detail on what the options could be for option 1, if we do that. Because I just wouldn't want to have this conversation again from the very beginning. So I think that's important. Dr. Sparrow, you had your hand up, and then back to Dr. Cote.
Thank you. I'll go fall back to the Cherry Creek Water Board when they had their 50 some odd years of evening meetings and at 7 p.m. So you think that'd be a good time to get young people involved, and it didn't really attract that many young people. That's for the same reason. After his kids came home from school, the priority was the children and not the boards. So, and then they moved it now to the daytime, and they have some people that are still working, and they have a business, and they can move their time around in their business. So they are there. No, they were there now. But the problem is that was a shift, right? Because they have the daytime availability to move it, but they didn't have the nighttime after the kids came home, because they only had to find babysitters and supper and get them ready to bed and put their routine in. So it looks good and it sounds good, but in practicality, it never really did work, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Dr. Cote next.
Thank you. I'd like to ask staff for more information on what other regional districts do and how it works for them. If there's actually an increase in participation from the public. I'd also like to have some suggested time starts. And also how would other meetings integrate with this? So we would probably be starting it earlier in the afternoon as well, instead of in the morning, because having a morning meeting and then a 4 o'clock meeting, there's a big gap there in the day. I just want to also point out that I do work also. I'm self-employed. I work till midnight, many nights, because I'm here in the daytime. At this point, I'd like to make a motion to table this
To the next committee of the whole.
to the next committee of the whole.
Okay, is there a second? Director Boyko, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, let's go into more detail with the options available for option 2, which may in fact, or sorry, option 1, which may in fact have an impact on option 2 because define evening at that point. But at that stage, we'll go to the next committee of the whole meeting, which is likely 4 weeks from 5 weeks. Yeah, the first meeting in September, I think. Just can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. Okay. And Daniel, you had a supplemental
Well,
discussion?
I think it's been addressed in terms of the additional detail. I'm clearer on that. In terms of what other regional districts are doing or other governments, I think what you'll find is it's all over the map. No one has a silver bullet in terms of achieving higher live attendance. I think what we will see is that there are examples everywhere of different things that are working or not working. I think it's highly likely that what we'll see is that it's the online streaming and recording that actually is the one key to ensuring that you have higher public participation and paying attention. But that said, certainly fleshing out some of the details of when we say evening, when does that evening start, and coming back with some examples of if a committee of the whole was that day, do we start at 1:30 and then jump into a 4 or 4:30 as the case may be. We can come back with some examples to look at. I think that would be a lot more beneficial than the comparison, because I don't think the comparison will resolve this dilemma.
Okay, thanks everyone for the discussion. Oh, sorry, Director Siga, please go ahead.
I think we've been through this discussion many times. I don't think it's going to, waiting is going to change vote. So I'm comfortable going forward with the vote.
Okay, then I would vote against tabling the motion. So that's what we're getting to right now. Okay, all those in favor of tabling the motion? All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, that brings us to the next agenda item, which is, oh, hospital meetings. Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. Okay, so this topic is based on feedback from the ACRD Hospital Strategic Planning Session and with input from Regional Hospital District Chair, Chair Haggard. We're proposing to schedule quarterly in-depth hospital meetings. So I think there was some interest in doing that at your strategic planning session. And so the idea would be to invite Island Health staff to share information regarding their plans and approvals. Each municipality and First Nation would be encouraged to bring information on health-related matters that their councils are working on. So this would allow the hospital board to be informed on upcoming proposals prior to funding requests being made of the board. We would still need certain hospital meetings after our regular board meetings for specific items. So in December, we would need to pass the provisional hospital budget bylaw. We'd have to give first reading to the budget bylaw in February and then adopt the budget in March, as well as adopting of the financial statements in April. So current practice has been to schedule 12 hospital board meetings per year after our regular board meeting. However, at times there are very limited agenda items. Sometimes there's no agenda items. We're just adopting the minutes from previous meetings. So we're trying to get to more in-depth hospital meetings where there's more conversation and discussion rather than just going through the motions of having a meeting because we've always had a meeting. So I'll stop there and ask for input.
Thank you. Dr. Haggard, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Heather reached out to me and she suggested 2 in-depth meetings per year, and I suggested a quarterly meeting. For the reasons we've got lots of issues coming up in the next while. Medical attraction and retention is extremely important right now to this community. Fino Hospital is on our radar, our proposed clinic is on our radar, creation of a service we have to, so these are all very in-depth discussions that we're going to have. So I think a quarterly meeting serves the purpose much better than twice a year. So we'll support this.
Thank you. Dr. Steer?
Yes, thank you through the chair. I certainly support Director Haggard's in the for in-depth hospital meetings. I think once again, we can, as she's pointed out, there are some larger issues that will be coming forward to the board. We as a board can, if you look at other regional hospital boards, they are much more involved in the process. And so the role of the hospital board at the ACRD, I think we can increase that. I also, if there is a need for more than quarterly, we can always call a special meeting of the hospital board if necessary. So I'm very supportive of this proposal and look forward to hearing other directors' comments.
I'm supportive of this as well. I think what we might want to do is make sure that we're timing these to be the equivalent in the time slot of a committee of the whole, like what we did with this week. That would just be regional hospital district time, so 10 to 12 or something like that to start. And I think we could really delve into some of those issues really well. Just going to make sure that they fit with the schedule for committee of the whole meetings when we do it. But that's between you and me. I think we should be able to figure that out. Yeah, I look forward to this. Is this something where we would need a resolution to go?
If the committee is relatively aligned, then no resolution is not needed for this one.
I think we all are. Director Steer, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Director Jack, I was just curious. You were mentioning aligning with the committee of the whole. Would it still not be possible just to align it with our regular board meeting as we have, and it's just those quarterly the format we have now? What would be the benefit of tagging it on to committee of the whole? Is that just for the opportunity to have a much more in-depth conversation at that time?
No, sorry. So I think of Wednesdays in regards to, or ACRD Wednesdays as being 1:30 to 4 is the board meeting, and then there's time slots beforehand. So 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, or whatever you want to say. And that the major time slot in the morning could be a regional hospital district portion, and then we wouldn't have to have our regional district or regional hospital district meeting as a part of the time slot in 1:30, because that just makes it tiny, right? Like it's not regarded as a full meeting in any sense. But what I was saying is that we would just need to make sure we have to have certain committees of the whole meetings, and I just wouldn't want that to interact negatively with what we're planning here. So we just need to schedule them at the right time, right? So sometimes it might be the second week, sometimes it might be the fourth week, or however we do it, and just make sure that that's well understood ahead of time. But we do publish the meeting schedule and update them when we need to, so that should be fairly easily handled. It's just when we get around to the quarter where we're doing budgets, I think is this something we need to be cognizant of the time requirements. So not necessarily like put the regional hospital district during the committee of the whole, but during that time slot that would normally happen. And we can always do the off Wednesdays as well, but sometimes taken up by the committees, and I'd want to coordinate there too. I think that's a consensus. That's something which, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we had previously talked about delegations at a previous TAL meeting. However, I would like to bring this one back because I had some other considerations that I want to present. So I recommend adding the following clause with respect to delegation. So the corporate officer or designate shall make the determination on whether a delegation request is outside the scope of the procedures bylaw, and will notify the requester if the reason to appear as a delegation is not accepted. So the reasons to deny a delegation are outlined on the screen, and we had previously talked about them. So without the delegating it to the corporate officer, we don't actually have anything that allows us to deny a delegation, which means we would have to put it on the agenda and let you as the board not accept that delegation on the agenda, which just makes an awkward situation if the delegate is here and you're denying it. There's been previous complaints to the ombudsperson regarding another local government who denied a delegation, and the ombudsperson came back and said, you don't have any policy or any written documentation that provides, the reasons and who can actually deny the delegation. So I am recommending that we add this in so that Cynthia or myself could deny a delegation if it falls into this category, and then you will not end up seeing it on your agenda package.
Thank you. I have a comment as well. Director Boyko, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to delegations matters related to a public hearing, we often get delegations that are discussing items of rezoning and various items that are going to a public hearing and things like that. Are we going to not have those anymore? Thank you.
I believe the rules are specific to when the public hearing officially begins around that. And any new information after the process is done cannot be considered without restarting the process.
So this would say we can accept delegations before a public hearing, but once we've had a public hearing, there can be no further information from the public going to directors to influence their decisions, etc. Just that we need to make that very clear here, so there's no ambiguity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it should be related to a public hearing in process rather than just a public hearing generally, because then it could be before, right? Knowing that one is coming up, but the processes haven't started, that's all good. Okay, oh wait, I had a comment. So, but I think Director Roth was for me, so please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just would like to further recommend that we keep the written reasons for denial and a record of denied requests, maybe an appeal option, and have an annual review of the decisions, just to make sure we're on top of it. Thanks.
Sure. Is that something that you would want presented to the board?
Well, maybe not necessarily.
I think though, there may be something to that, Director Roth. Maybe we want to do a review every end of year. Just to go, these many were denied or for these reasons. And yeah. I think having a report is good. So we can measure it. Director Coots, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree. I think having the reporting at the end of the year would be really great, because then that could also give the opportunity for, if say I am trying to build a shed in my yard and I'm just not quite understanding the process correctly. I keep sending in the wrong types of paperwork or I'm not explaining myself correctly. That could give us the opportunity to explain to the public how to best go down those avenues to succeed in their goal. Thanks.
Thank you. The only thing, I have two things that I wanted to bring up. I think we should deny delegations for for-profit business, but some charities I think are called not-for-profit corporations. And I think we just need to tighten up the language there. And there may still be something called, I think there is, social enterprises, which they make profit, but they don't take the profit. They either reinvest it or it goes towards something. So if we could have some sort of differentiation so that we can either deny all of them or deny only some of them, depending on how it works. And then I think there's a mistake. It's not misinformation, it's disinformation. Misinformation is just mistaken. Disinformation is information that's presented to muddy the waters. So I wouldn't mind if it's hate speech or disinformation. Because what I don't want are just like random yahoos talking about sovereign citizenship or something, right? That's disinformation. So those are the things that'll matter. Misinformation, though, if somebody comes to the table and they're pretty sure they're right, but they end up that they're not because of a mistake, that's different. So yeah. Okay. Is that clear enough for now?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. And just to clarify, like in the last 2 years that I've been in this role, I haven't denied any. I just want to cover the situation in case it does happen.
Well, I mean, if there's another pandemic or something, then that might be a thing. Or if there's a potential of a giant settlement between one of the nations in the valley or others, sometimes that matters. We're not Delta, so that's okay. But those are some considerations given how things had gone. So I just want to be sensitive around that. Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Okay. Okay, so this slide is regarding the invites going out to alternate directors when the elected director cannot attend a board or committee meetings. So this is their current practice, and it's not written in the procedures bylaw, but if an elected director advises staff that they can't attend a board meeting, we'll send agenda materials to the alternate director and send them an invite, including in camera, should that be scheduled. We've had a recent request to extend invites and forward agenda items to alternates on a regular practice. And that's not our current practice. So if the board or the committee would like to make that change, then we should probably pass the resolution to do that. And we would need to have it vetted for legal applicability.
Yeah, I think notice would need to happen and then it can just happen as a result. I think that makes most sense. But I think it would be not just notice of the corporate officer, the chair and the vice chair need to be informed of the absence and that sort of thing. That's usually how it works in like municipalities. The mayor has to be informed. Or is that assumed? Sorry.
I'm not sure that it's assumed. I don't think it's written in our procedures bylaw.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that happens automatically. Director Roth, please go ahead.
You have a few points here. We all have alternates to ensure our communities are always represented. For that to work, all alternates need full access to all agendas, including in camera, whether they're attending or we're attending or not. This keeps them informed, ensures continuity, and avoids last-minute scrambling. So I recommend adding the following to this bylaw. Alternate directors shall receive all board and committee meeting agendas, including in-camera agendas, at the same time as the regular director, regardless of whether they are attending the meeting in place of the regular director. Thank you.
Director Boyko, go ahead.
So, thank you, Chair. So just to be clear, Director Roth, you want to revise the wording to say respected?
Yeah.
So instead of if the director tells staff that they can't make it, then the agenda will be sent to the alternate, but change it so that the agenda, be it in camera or not, is automatically sent to the alternate so they can be prepared, especially if there's a last minute absence. Is that what you're saying? Thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
Yeah, I am saying that. Just basically put them on the mail list with everyone else. It just makes sense to me.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Director Beckett, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not sure that I disagree with Director Roth. I am questioning sending the in-camera portion, especially if the alternate is not officially attending on behalf of the director. And again, given the potential sensitivity of an in-camera issue and the fact that our alternates are not elected by the community. So sorry, but I'm just musing these things. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Director Beckett. Director Siga, next.
I think consistently sending out meeting agendas and stuff to the alternates might muddy the waters. I think it's the responsibility of the elected person to communicate with their alternate when they're not available and to get them up to speed so that they're comfortable voting at the meetings. So I don't see that as the alternate's responsibility.
Any further comments? We'll go with Director Sparrow and then go to Daniel.
Thank you for that. As far as it goes for all regular meetings and late items, we can see them on the website as it is, right? So all we're talking about is the in-camera stuff right now, basically. And I figure the smaller group is making the decisions to have access. If I'm not available, I'll tell my alternate and give them background information on what I know, but it's not my decision what their decision is. But as far as in camera, we should try and keep it to those that are going to be in this room at that time. I mean, we don't let staff see something in camera, so why are we letting other board members which may not be here have that information? Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, the in-camera is the only thing that we would, and that's why we put in the language that we'd want to get legally vetted. The way the act is written, is that the alternate acts on behalf of the director only when the director is not there. And so what we're not clear on is whether sharing in-camera information would create a legal risk that falls outside of the permitted legislation. Because technically then both are receiving that information and are in a position of making decisions when one is not required to be there. And so we just want to make sure we're clear on that. And it does potentially create an issue where we don't have full control of sensitive information. And that can, it's all about legalities on this one that we want to ensure that we're covering our basis. Beyond that, I mean, all the other information is public, whether we email it out as a courtesy or whether it's simply available and a reminder is put out, really makes no difference. It'd be easy enough for us to have a distribution list for non-in-camera that includes alternates as well, if that's what they want.
All right, thank you. I have Director Roth and then Director Haggard.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether the alternates take an oath. I don't remember, but I'm curious about that. They do sign a code of conduct, I believe, and which includes confidentiality agreement. So I think it's much the same responsibility if it is not the same responsibility that we have as an elected official. So but I do agree it would need to go before a lawyer. Thank you.
Director Haggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last council term of the alternate for about 3 years, I believe. And as an alternate was my responsibility to read agendas. So I was prepared in case the mayor or the elected official was not able to attend. So I did read those agendas very carefully and very thoroughly as I do now, in case I had to go to the meeting. And if I was called upon, then I would be given the in-camera information. So I don't want to deviate from that. I think we have had issues before with in-camera information being out in the public. So I want to keep it as small as possible. And it is the onus, responsibility is on the alternate to do the work if we are called upon.
Thank you. I think what I'd like to do is ask that this come back to our next discussion about this and have it rolled up with the considerations around using the new technology, because I think the new technology is way more secure. And so as we can provide some certainty around that, then I think more people will have an openness to it. But I think that answers need to come from a legal perspective and a technological perspective. My big thing is security concerns about leaking confidential information, not necessarily about like who voted what or who said what, but like when we're going through and discussing matters that are like legal, or things that are in process in regards to things that are like provincially mandated, things where there's like substantive money or property or rights in place, like labor stuff too. So when it comes to those kind of things, I'm concerned about potential leaking of information, either on purpose or not. But I think the technology can help deal with that, because there are ways to set certain programs so that you can't print it, you can't screenshot it, all that kind of stuff. It makes reading it hard sometimes. So hopefully we have one where we can actually read on a tablet, or else I'm going to make you send me printouts by the mail or something. And I think there's an answer to this. So let's just put this in the queue for good answers, and then we can move forward with it. If it turns out that there are legal considerations around when an alternate director actually is qualified legally to get it, like that's the only thing I can think of. Like if there's some weird definition thing that happens, but I think I'm not a lawyer, so I just want to make sure. Okay. With that, let's talk to the rest of the board about how many sections do we have left?
There are quite a few sections, but if you're willing to go an extra 10 minutes, I think that would be helpful for me.
10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a motion on the floor though?
There is not.
No? Yeah. I thought she did.
Did somebody second though? I thought she read something out, but she didn't move
It was a
She was-
recommendation. It wasn't a motion.
Yeah. I was right. Okay. Okay,
Okay, so recorded votes at committee meetings. So, recently, and just in this meeting, directors have requested recorded votes at committee meetings. Past practice has been only to do recorded vote at board meetings, not at the committee level. So I think we should clarify this in the procedures bylaw if you actually do want to have recorded votes at committees.
okay, so Director Roth got there first, and then Director Haggard, and then Director Boyko.
Okay, committees shape key decisions. Votes should be recorded too. It's about transparency and accountability, not bureaucracy. I support updating the bylaw to require recorded votes on all committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Haggard.
Thank you. I actually have chaired a committee of the whole meeting and somebody asked for a recorded vote and I asked it because it was a committee level. If we take recorded votes and I was told, yes, it was motion, same as a board meeting. So that second bullet point isn't quite true because we have done it in the past.
That might just fall under chair's discretion, which is a part of the procedures as well. Okay, Director Boyko, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. If we move to the new technology, which I think we're going to go to, this becomes a moot point, right? Because we're going to be using it at committees.
Not for committees, because we wouldn't be providing committee members with the technology
Oh,
to.
yeah, that's fine. So I would support the ability to have votes recorded because there are some important topics that get discussed and move forward to board to come or to vote on officially, and people need to be accountable, transparent, and open on what happens in these committees. That is the whole point of local government.
Thank you. Yeah, recording votes, it might be different than providing the documents. Any further comments? Or the program? Go ahead, Director, or sorry, Heather, go ahead.
Thank you. I was just going to ask, my preference for committee meetings would be that recorded votes be taken upon request. If we're recording every single vote, it's going to add considerable administration time.
I think the analog clause default is something where if it's not a board meeting, we could have recorded votes at the committee of the whole, which is different, or say the EA Directors Committee, which is all elected officials, which is different. If I were an EA director though, and being informed on a planning matter by an APC, how certain individuals vote may have more weight, and therefore it might be valuable for me to know how they voted. Although the onus might be on me to actually find that out just from them directly, but I think there's utility there. So Director Boyko and then Director Sparrow.
Thank you, Chair. You brought up a very good point about advisory planning committee meetings. Right now, they're not shared. The minutes are not online and you cannot watch the videos. So unless I am at one, especially if it's in another area and I want additional information, all I can see is the committee voted to support it or they did not. I don't get any extra information. So we need to make that a lot more accessible as well. But your point of the directors being able to get more information to make a more informed decision is very valid. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Sparrow.
Thank you. If you under record vote at committee meeting, to make the recorded votes at committee meetings for elected officials only, which would be committee of the whole, whereas an APC meeting could have recorded vote if they ask for it. So only elected officials have recorded votes. We do that.
That is definitely an option. And I think that's something that we can discuss further as well. Because right now, I think the recorded vote at the committee of the whole can only stand on the whole chair's discretion thing, but I just can't remember if that's only for undefined things, and I don't know if it's defined. I can't remember. I may be mixing up my committee or my terms of reference as well, because I might be just dragging in weight stuff. But yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Well, I think where Director Sparrow is going is likely achievable. So just bearing in mind where we provide the technology is with elected officials. So committee meetings where a quorum is composed of elected officials, we could record because we would use the full extent of the technology that's there. On committee meetings that are not composed of a quorum of elected officials, it would be back to the analog on request. We can record, we can do that pause. But like as Heather said, the technology will be there for the recording and whatnot in terms of how agendas are built. So we don't have to worry about that. So I think it's achievable, and I think if you wanted us to come back with tighter language around it, we can do that.
Yeah, I think that would be appreciated. I think that's, especially with the whole idea of elected officials having it, then that works. Then it just goes default. But, okay, any further comments? Oh, we're on the next slide. Please go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to touch on this in case the committee would like further information. I could bring that back to the next Cal meeting. So currently in our procedures bylaw, we have one line in the agenda package that says we have a question period at each of the end of our meetings. So it doesn't provide any details on how we accept input from the public. It just says question period. So our current practice since 2020, since we started going to Zoom meetings, is to accept questions from the public in the boardroom, emails sent to responses@acrd, or questions through Zoom. So the public being in the boardroom asking the odd question, certainly for contentious issues, but I wouldn't say it's not well used. The emails, we received 2 emails from April 2024 till today. So that option is not well used. The Q&A box in Zoom is used regularly. The challenge with Zoom is that currently you're not required to state your name or what street you live on, so you could use a fake name. Often responses are framed as a statement rather than a question, sometimes without enough with a delayed response, like I'm reading out the questions at the end of the board meeting, but they're related to an item earlier on in the agenda. It's hard to connect what they're saying to the agenda item. So should the board wish to make changes to the public input period to gather greater public input, we'd like clarification on what should be accepted. And I really would like to identify to the public and put on our website and put in some communication materials, how to engage with the board, like how to write letters to the board, how they will be received, how they will be shared. And yeah, I'll stop there, but I would like you to consider this, and if you would like more information, I can certainly bring that back in September.
Thank you. Dr. Sparrow and then Dr. Boyko.
Thank you. So what is the meaning behind the question period? I guess the best question, because we held it at the very end of the meeting after we made a decision. So like closing the barn doors after, right? I know that people want to make statements, but they don't really ask questions. They make statements on different things, but we've already passed the item. So what use is this, and how can it be valuable to us moving forward? Is my question.
We'll go to Dr. Roth and then Dr. Boyko.
Thank you. I'm just thinking more access means better decisions and stronger public trust. So we need to make it easier. So could we better advertise this? You know, maybe put it out there more that these options are available?
I think you're right. I think we could. I think actually becoming a delegation is probably the most effective way to get engagement, though. And I think the timing of the delegations might be something where we want to look at beginning or end of the meeting as well, depending on the topic or who's coming in, right? So we could potentially look at that. Dr. Boyko and then Dr. Steer, then Dr. Coots.
Thank you, Chair. I think Director Sparrow made a very valuable comment is this is at the end of the meeting. We've already made our decisions and public comment is not really valid unless they just want to make a statement of you guys did a good job or you did a bad job or whatever else, right? And the other problem with that is no one knows when that will happen. Is it going to take half an hour to get to the end or 3.5 hours? So having people stick around and listen to things in live is problematic. I think the city has a question period right at the start, if I remember correctly.
We have question period at the end of the meetings, and it has to be related to what was on the agenda for regular council meetings. However, for our committee of the whole meetings, we have public input at the beginning of the meeting. So public input is very different than question period.
So on the topic at the top here, we do have public input. So maybe we should revise this to have public input at the start of the meeting relevant to what is at that meeting and have a period of start. Thank you for clarification.
think that's good practice. Director Steer and then Director Coots.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on exactly what you guys, had just been discussed. We have that at the District of Tofino. We have question on agenda items. We have a very specific time frame. You have a maximum of 2 minutes with a total of 10 minutes for that particular. At the end, there are questions for clarity, and it has to be specific to an agenda item that was on the agenda, obviously. And then once again, with a very specific time frame, 2 minutes with a 10-minute maximum. And it's been very, very helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Steer. Dr. Coots, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same thoughts as everybody else at the moment. I'm curious as to whether or not we think there might be any benefit to perhaps just sort of revising the numbers within the agenda and popping that up. As our chair has stated, it could be a potential of maybe getting yourself as a delegation. So could it maybe perhaps that question period comes as the new section 6 comes after delegations, gives everybody the opportunity to present, and then if the public has questions on the presentation, that would be when we would get those questions and then carry on to correspondence and make the decisions later.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think we should consider the Port Alberni or City of Port Alberni practice. I think linking that to committee of the whole means that we can have greater discussions because it's a little less pressed for time for decision making. I think we should call it something different. I think public input is a good topic for it because question period is like, for me, it reminds me of QP at Parliament or the legislature. It's called question period, not answer period, right? So for the most part, it's about making statements and then somebody being able to have a rebuttal. You are the elected leaders, though. You're supposed to make the statements and you're supposed to do the rebuttals. Citizens can provide input to their elected leaders for that purpose. I think the only time is when somebody is not being represented. And that just needs to be given its own space. Asking a question isn't the same thing as making a statement, though. And I would really want to see some good ground rules being put down, because what I don't want is for somebody to come up during a question period or public input and just start pointing fingers and going, you people are idiots, you people should have thought of this thing, you know, or specifically mention names, especially staff. So I would take a page out of what your predecessor, Director Coots, had said. It's like, you have to be hard on the issues, not on the people. So if somebody's providing input, it has to be on a topic and shouldn't be mentioning names directly. Because if you're mentioning names, then you're making a complaint, probably. And if that's the case, then we have processes for that aren't that, especially when we're kind of getting close to silly season. That's something that'll need to be considered, well considered when we get there. So let's have a conversation around public input as a scheduled thing that we can advertise, set aside 2 hours quarterly at least, especially since we want to have conversations around budget, that sort of thing too. But let's look at the options available, and maybe we keep question period, but for the most part, usually statement period anyway. And people who have legit questions often send them to me and or Daniel, and then we figure out the answers and send it to them by email. But nothing takes the place of real letters, because those seem to be the most powerful and have the most gravity. So should continue to be. Yeah. Any further comments or questions? Was that the last slide?
Yeah, that's where we'll stop. So I'll thank you for the feedback. I will work on providing some additional information and some options with respect to public input.
Okay. With that, thank you for the presentation, Heather. And could we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Dr. Roth, seconded by Dr. Boyko. Any further comment? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Have a good lunch, everyone.